Good evening, Isaac. How are you, sir?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, doing well. Man, it is the bearded hat chat tonight.
Oh,
We've got our
well,
buddy Ric White.
is there a third?
Oh,
Oh,
snap.
beards and hats. Hey,
You let me on the show.
We let you on the show. I know it may be the worst decision we ever make, but we
and they're
stick
not
with it.
all 25th century hats either.
That's
So
true. 25th century. We got a Spider-Man hat, and we got
Venom, how dare you?
Venom hat,
Um,
and then Seattle something.
Seattle Kraken,
Strasburg sock. Oh, no.
What?
the NHL team from Seattle. So, because
Oh,
represent,
okay.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
because you live in Seattle. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is the game chat. We're here to talk about games sometimes,
Sometimes.
and this is our buddy Rick. Rick, I've known you for
Too
man
long.
a dozen years. No, I've known you a long. I've known you as long as I've known Aaron. That's weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, we've Rick writes with us at One Board Family. He's also an educator. Rick gave me a whole bunch of things that like he's achieved in his life,
hmm
but one stood out to me. He looks really nice in khakis,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
so that's the only one of those things that I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
So
like pants or shorts or
I think
All, all
both
of them.
types.
oh,
Yeah. So
All of
all of
them.
them. Yeah.
fair
Yeah.
enough.
So yep. All
Yeah.
right. So let's get this thing started. So I wrote the questions this time around. So
Yes, you did indeed.
yeah. So it's going to start with a Halloween question. I got my Halloween games behind me. My yard is halfway decorated because I apparently caught the flu,
Oh,
and I'm very sick right now. So it's not decorated.
I think you should wear a mask for the episode to keep us safe.
This is why we use the internet, so I don't cough
Oh,
on you
oh,
guys. Yeah.
Gotcha.
they're speaking of
Uh,
25th century games.
is there a Chad in the comments there? Oh no, who invited that guy? That is true. That is
100%.
true.
Also, I don't have a 25th century hat because I guess I'm not cool enough. So
You're not. You're not.
that's why I'm wearing this, I guess.
Do you
Just
know
I
the
do have a mug though.
Do you know
So
the
that's
greatest? Do you know the greatest slight in the world when it said that that 25th Century Games is now following One Board Family
mhm.
like a week and a half ago. So anyway, got that notification. Yeah. Um, starting question: favorite Halloween costume from your childhood? Your but a wee tyke. What Halloween costume do you remember so much?
I think I can go.
Yeah, you go first.
So
Guests first.
so the one that my family liked most was that I was dressed as Alfalfa from the Little Rascals as
You
like
would make a great alfalfa.
Oh, as a little kid, I was great. But the thing about it is that I didn't know who that was. It
Oh,
actually happened before the new movie came out,
yeah.
or before the '90s movie, and so like I was very confused as to what I was wearing. But I remember um, Peter Pan also was
Okay.
pretty
Okay.
solid. Running around in tights. Um,
Yep.
I think those are the only two I can remember, though. I think I
Yeah.
ended up going as those several years in a row to save money on costumes. So
That's the way to go, man.
that's kind of how it ended up happening. I mean, it wasn't for me to save money,
Yeah.
but
So,
now my thing is I at my school ended up having a Batman um, costume that I bought that I wore like 6 years in a row until
there
the
we go.
cowl started to disintegrate and I had to
Yeah.
buy a new
Yeah.
one.
That's really
Yeah.
nice. That Batman costume, like Josiah's actually looked at like a nice high quality Batman costume. I think he could pull it off. So,
Yeah, I'm
um,
very self-conscious about my hat right now. Like there's a lot of
really,
hat stuff happening and I just
do you
feel
need
like
to
I need to
flip
touch
it
it at all
backward to look
times.
cooler?
Hold on, let me see. Is
Does
this
that look?
Oh
Oh,
man,
yeah.
I look like
That looks
Ryan's
really good.
Ryan's Google
So,
chat picture. All right, there we
so everybody thinks that my Google, if you've ever messaged me on Gmail personally, my personal account, I have a shot of a backward hat, and I have I have a fake, like, drawn on mustache, like a pencil themed mustache. We were joking around doing something while we were doing some missions work at a homeless ministry. And so everybody thinks that it is me in a do-rag with a tiny mustache and a gold chain on. Everybody. Like, I've gotten that multiple times. I had somebody tell me one time, they were like, "Do you think that's appropriate to have as your?" I was like, "What's inappropriate with it?" They were like, "Well,
All
you
of it.
wearing a do-rag." And I'm like,
All of it.
"I'm not wearing a do-rag. It's a backward hat." You know? So
Let's just say maybe we update our picture from like 20 years ago. Maybe that's the thing that we think about doing.
maybe. I think we don't have any audio from Isaac. He's probably been talking.
How about now? I haven't been talking.
Okay,
good now. Sorry. I hate getting in our game chat notes and seeing that picture because you look like a backup dancer for Smash Mouth in that picture. Like there we go. It's not good.
So,
time to change.
Ryan, were you a backup dancer for Smash Mouth?
I was. I came out there in a fur coat. It was great.
Yeah, I know it.
Rick looks like the third cousin of Backstreet Boy, trying to tell everyone he was in the original band, but they cut him because he was too cool. That makes sense.
It's true.
Makes
I was actually in O-Town.
That's so sad. I know that. Good evening. Looking forward to this topic. As a high school studies teacher, I can and do use games in my classroom, not as much as I'd like to. So cool. Awesome. You'll probably have some insight here. So let's go favorite costume from my childhood, Karate Kid. I wanted a Karate Kid costume so bad because they were the thing. Every Walmart and Kmart had Karate Kid costumes. Instead, my parents got a used gi from somewhere. I don't know where.
Ew.
But I acted like it was Ralph Macchio's Karate Kid costume. So
I mean, what's really the difference to some extent? I mean,
it was the symbol on the back.
Worst you should have drawn on it with like a permanent marker.
That's true. Worst costume was forgetting about Halloween, coming around and forgetting that we were allowed to dress up a certain day of the week of school and dressing like a hobo 3 years in a row. So
I love Chad bringing it back, going to the original, the shower, best Karate Kid costume. So for me, it was the like grade school plastic costumes that came in the cardboard box, and the mask was like, probably made of asbestos, and the costume was a sheet of plastic, basically. So Superman
like
ones. Yeah, everybody had the exact same like style, right?
Yeah.
You just had a different mask. You had dead face Superman, dead face Wonder Woman, whatever it was. So Superman, Batman, I remember having those. Those are probably my favorites from as a kid, and I still have my Superman one somewhere put away.
They're coming back. I was at Spirit Halloween this weekend and looking around, and they had boxes with the original like plastic masks and a costume packed inside. So
I like the idea of Ryan hanging around Spirit Halloween like you would at a board game store, trying to offer advice to people. Like, hey guys, like have you seen in the back like the new costumes that they got in the back? And then everybody like, sir, please leave. We're gonna have to put you on a list.
Yeah. Well, I was walking around Spirit Halloween. I was like, people were trying on masks and stuff. I'm like, that one doesn't make you look good. I've got this other one right over here. And I open up a trench coat, and I've got like masks everywhere.
If you want a discount, come out to my van, and I got some.
I've got a van out there with some great costumes. So
trench coat and van. 9 minutes into the show, here we go.
There we go. Rick's on the show.
The wild ride.
All right. So good stuff. So which teacher in your past, since we're talking about educational, not necessarily educational games, but games as educational tools, what educator in your past made a huge impact in your development growing up? And Rick, saying yourself is not a good look.
All right, let me go fix my notes. Hold on.
I love that you took notes.
He does for Will at Game.
Yeah, no doubt. So I had an English teacher in high school that was really influential on me because I was quite good at school things growing up. And so like the first time she evaluated a paper, and I was like, this paper is going to be good. Like, and she did it like in front of the class and like destroyed it. Ooh. I think that was one of those things where like having somebody tell me like ways that I could get better at stuff. Like I think a lot of the times it had been like, this is good enough, and like kind of let me just kind of glide on with that. So that was really helpful to have a person that held me accountable for stuff and helped me get better, even when I thought I was already pretty good at things.
Yeah. I would have to say my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Singleton. So this guy was a very interesting dude. He was a character. He would get into the classroom and he would speak French to the kids. He said that he would always tell us that he wanted to broaden our horizons and help us to understand different cultures. And Mr. Singleton had a desire to retire from teaching and to open a like Southern steakhouse, like cooking soul food. He was such a cool dude. And I remember just the way that he cared about students and the way that he stopped teaching straight out of a book and actually taught us life skills. Man, he made a huge impact in my life.
Well, he spoke French, Ryan, because you studied abroad in 5th grade. Don't you remember?
That's true. That's true.
Come on, get it together. Obviously,
I was super cool back then.
Yeah.
I never took French. So
true. So that's Bob's comment about having the worst teacher because he was homeschooled.
Oh, that's terrible, Bob, Facebook user. Oh, that's why he went under there, because Facebook user.
So he was trying to be anonymous, and you guys have thrown him under the bus.
Yep, bus. Here we go. Oh, hey, Heather.
Heather, what's up?
So I would pick probably, as far as like most influential, would be some of the last teachers I had in college, going into professional schooling for physical therapy. And one guy in particular, his name was Dr. Kajawa, was like I want to be like this guy, because he was real world stuff. He was, here's what the book says, here's what I actually see as a practicing clinician. So I think it was the reality smack of like, I'm going to help you see what's really going on. And that was very helpful. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Those impactful teachers always they stick with you. So
no, for sure.
Heather's just getting back from Essen. So
bragger.
Very awesome.
What'd you bring us?
Yeah.
We all.
Yeah. What are you going to bring all of us?
Yeah.
She's only a couple hours from me. I can go pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I expect her to drop it Santa Claus style out of the down our chimneys.
That's fair. That's fair.
Is that not how it works? So what skills has board games helped you improve? When you think about improving a certain skill set or anything like that, what skills have improved due to board games?
Let me pretend to deeply think about this for a moment.
Okay.
And then reflect on my life, cry a little bit because of what I see, and then openly weep. And then I think,
not money management.
No. All right. So it's interesting. Like there are, I think, a lot of things that you don't realize. I think for me, the past few years, it's been thinking about how I explain things. Like in being a teacher, that's obviously part of what I do. But when I play a game, 70% of the time, I'm also teaching that game, and so I end up playing 4 different games at once because I'm helping other people learn it. But making sure that I hit details the right way, making sure that I speak at a pace and illustrate things the way that that anybody could understand it. I haven't really thought deeply about how that might impact my teaching skills in a classroom, but I'm sure there's a lot of overlap there. And problem solving skills, obviously, and things like that. But I think communication, instruction, and stuff like that for me, probably where I'm hitting it.
So board games have made you a better teacher. That's awesome. So.
Yeah, let's put that as a quote for the episode.
There we go.
Yeah.
Cozy Little Brown House. We started board gaming with our kiddo at 4. Her math skills and critical thinking skills are awesome. We think largely because of that. I agree. I think my logic, my logical deduction and my math skills have greatly improved because of board games. My mental math was garbage, 15 years ago. But now it's like, I ran a cash register when I was like in my teens, and it was really good because of that. But when you stop using it on an everyday basis, it just kind of slowly fades. And then
Right.
when you're playing board games, Aaron and I were sitting here playing a board game right before the show, and I was just calculating, like in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm like 5 points off from her. Okay, I'm like 3 points off. Okay, she's 8 points up. And that's because I play so many board games, so
You're learning.
yeah. So
yeah, AJ's a
AJ, get up
teacher,
in here.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
figure he might be coaching right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I don't math out games a ton. Like I don't really like what you're saying there. I don't really think a lot about I just kind of like, I'm more of a plow through and hope I did the best versus everybody. But some games have made me get more into that. Like I like to just take moves, see what happens, move along. And we've talked about it. Like Caligo is a game that forces me into
Yes.
like way more critical thinking than I'm comfortable with doing. And so it's helped in that manner. And
Yeah.
I don't math at all. I
There
just
we go.
bull in China shop and I see if I'm the last bull standing.
There we
But
go.
but that, and I think from what Rick said, the same, like I tend to teach a lot of the games because a lot of them are new games that I end up having to get to the table so I can review them. And so I've learned like people's teaching styles, right? Like I know this guy wants a crazy explanation, so it's going to take longer versus we played a game on Saturday night and I knew the two I was playing with would be good with an overview and a teach as we went. So kind of learning how to manipulate or not manipulate, learning how to maneuver around the people at the table.
Yep.
So.
Because all three of us have had to like teach so many games, I think that it's probably true that we like learn the nuances of trying to like, understand at what point is too much and at what point is like, is it just enough to like take in,
Get right.
Yep. Yeah. So everything good, Rick?
There was a loud bang in my house, and Sarah ran down with one of the kids. So I think he's okay though. So we're fine.
Okay. Yeah, one of my kids a couple weeks ago on the show, Kendall like tripped and fell into a laundry basket, slammed up against the wall, broke the laundry basket, and like I was like, hold on, I'll be back in a minute.
Well, it's one of those that sounded like a grown person falling down, but like they're 3 and 1. So I was like, what happened?
Yeah,
we'll figure out
weigh
the
like
sound
30
later.
pounds.
Yeah, we'll figure out what that was later.
Yeah. So next up, we've got let's see. Have you been inspired to work on your own game design? What does that look like? Have you dug into that process?
So one thing I have done is I've taught a board game design class several years at my school, and I actually had a lot of help from folks in the design industry. Chad's been incredibly helpful with it. But as part of that, I wanted to help out, and I developed a quick game design that involved it was like a 9-card game and involved like flipping cards and moving them around. And I have no idea where the rules are for that or anything at all. I did have a prototype though, and I took it to Proto ATL and tested it with one guy, and he was like, "Ooh, I don't know about this." And I think like as I was play testing it, I was like, there's needs to be more done to this than I really have time to do. But it's one of those things that like I could break it back out and try it out. But it's something that I encourage my students to do, and I figure if I'm going to encourage them to do it, I might as well do it myself. And I've had ideas from time to time, but like I think I'm better. I mean, I haven't done a lot either way, but having somebody have a base element like design kind of thing and helping more with the development rather than the start it from scratch. I can't wrap my head around some of those things quite yet. into a way
Gotcha.
that I think would be fun for anybody.
I've worked on about 5 different designs that were just rattling around in my head. At first, I actually we actually got as far as we were looking at making a chicken pressure luck, like chicken deck builder. It was really interesting. And so we started looking at artwork, and then I just dropped the ball on it. This was 5 years ago. And then I actually created a game that at the time I'd only played role for it one time, but there was a Yahtzee. Do either one of you know a Yahtzee pressure luck game that came in a little square? It was like Yahtzee Smash or something like that. I can't even remember what it was called, but it was like a little Yahtzee game that was really cleverly packaged, and you had these cards similar to roll for it, where you would roll the dice, you would allocate things, but people could steal your cards. If they wanted to, they could take all the dice back, or they could try risking it, trying to steal your card that you'd already allocated stuff to. So I took that as my base, and I made this thing called Lucky Shopper. And it was at the time I didn't even realize it. It was very similar to Roll For It, and I played Roll For It like after I had started designing this thing. But there was this advanced, like you would similar to Ticket to Ride, where you had like a card that was a shopping list, and so when the cards rolled out, they were like chicken legs, and you would roll and you would try to get the chicken legs, especially if they were on your goal card, for additional points and things like that. And there were set collection aspects and stuff like that. So it was almost like Roll For It Advanced. And I started play testing it. And to this day, like 5 years later, I've got 4 or 5 people who are like, "Where's that prototype that you had?" I was like, "Oh yeah." I got bummed out. Somebody on the internet asked me, he messaged me and said, "Hey, I saw you were prototyping something, send it to me." And their feedback was not at all helpful, and ultimately horribly critical. And so I never touched the game again. So
yeah,
I'm sorry about that, by the way.
no problem. His name, Ric White.
Ric White. Yeah. That has a way of deterring you from wanting to work on stuff.
It really did. I never there was a new mechanica that I just added, and I was trying to fit it into the rules before sending them the deck of cards, and I couldn't fit it in time. But there were these. It was called cleanup. It was like a cleanup on aisle whatever. And when that card rolled out, there were 2 in the deck. When that card rolled out, it required everybody to attend to the cleanup, and you couldn't take anything from the grocery store until that cleanup was done. So it almost like stopped everybody's selfishness. It focused on a cooperative element before you could take anything out. And the person who wanted to keep rolling for their own stuff looked like the biggest jerk at the table. It was great.
Perfect. So, yeah, I've had a couple rolling around in my head for a few years. One in particular that made it to like prototyping, and we have a few of the guys aren't in the area anymore, but pre-pandemic Northwest Ohio game designers was like John Gilmore and Ian Moss, and like we had 4 or 5 guys that had multiple published games, and so I would go help them out, play some of their stuff. I played so many versions of Wonderland's War, like when it was in paper and dice, and but I took this game I had because I'd only played it with family and friends, and I love family and friends, but they always tell you that it's great. And so I had John, Ian, Travis Mangum's another local designer kind of sit down. They all played it, and they're like, "I like what this is doing. I like where it's going, but XYZ, try this, try that." And I made all those changes, thought, wow, this is really good. Reintroduced it to friends and family who were like, "I don't like this version at all. I liked your other version," which kind of left me in this like, what am I doing with this thing? And I literally haven't touched it since then. And it's a fish game. It's a dice building bag where you have different colored fish that can they basically go into like a breeding tank and put a blue and a yellow together, and you make a green, and that's for your fulfilling set orders. And I have all these ideas with it. I just haven't like I haven't done much with it since then. I am dropping names. I gotta then Chad Elkins. No, Chad has thing. I do have
Yeah.
another couple that I've tried, and Hank said in there too. Like Hank's helped me with a few of these. He said helping friends develop their game ideas. Like Hank's played through a few of these, and I have one in particular that I think like I really want to pursue harder because it's a simple card game, and I feel like that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a game with the same name coming out, so I'm really kind of same theme name. So I'm watching for that. It's supposed to come out this year, and then see if what I've got's any different. But it's fun, right? I think we play so many things that you just start thinking like, well, what about this, and what about if you tried that?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you guys have made a podcast out of literally doing that.
Well, some of the crazy things, and Rick can tell you this too. Some of the crazy things is when we see designs that mirror some of the stuff that we pitched, because our stuff that we pitch on Will It Game is absolute bullcrap. And so
but I would play some of the things.
Some of them actually sound good. There have been 3 that I was like, I could definitely sit down and work on this for like, 50, 60 hours. There was one that I created. It was called Pulp Fiction Pioneer. No,
John Travolta Samuel L. Jackson movie. Maybe.
I'm excited.
Pulp Fiction Pioneer, I think it was called. So anyway, there was this mechanic. There was this game about being a comic book publisher back in the early days of the comic book, heyday, and it had all these things about like getting recruiting people who were like artists, street artists, and stuff like this. There's a lot of stuff. Anyway, I see an ad show up. This was 3.5 years ago. I see an ad show up for a thing called Age of Comics, which is actually ending its run on Kickstarter right now. So I was like, what is this? It's called Age of Comics, and like I looked at some of the mechanics and I was like, what is happening here? And so I reached out to the couple who created the game. They're in Rome. They're in Italy. And I reached out. I was like, hey, I just want you to know that I created this like fake game 3.5 years ago. I pitched it, and there's some things that are overlapping. I just wanted to like touch base with you and just say, hey. And it was purely to like get to understand where their design came from and how close it was to what, and it wasn't
about the money.
Yeah,
Ryan wanted money. No, I'm just kidding.
I wanted money. I wanted $5. But there were some similarities. But actually, I really enjoyed getting to know that couple and knowing where Age of Comics came from. And so we got an opportunity to preview Age of Comics just in the past month and a half, and actually, it's really good. Like, it's a really good game, and I really enjoy what they did with it. And so, in some way, I'm so glad that something that popped out of my head that I was like, oh, I could see making this. Something similar exists, and that's really cool.
We had a couple others. I think my favorite overlap is one that I pitched that was about robotic boy bands.
Yes,
and creating a boy band made of robots, and somebody made essentially that game. And I was like, how is this an idea that 2 people had simultaneously? But it was pretty random. I did forget something. Hold on. I'll be right back. You guys talk about something. Who cares?
So he pitched that one to Jamie Stegmaier, actually. So
really?
That was an interesting one.
I remember that. I remember Jamie being on. I don't remember the specific.
Yeah, so robot boy band thing. And so we actually went back to their Instagram with the company who did make that. We went back to their Instagram to see their development stuff, and their development started a couple months before our episode. So
sure.
Nobody's stealing our ideas. I mean, these.
I was going to point out
for the most part.
I was going to point out that I'm technically a published board game designer because I designed an expansion for Macaroon. So
that's true. That's true. So. Well, now that you've brought it up, Rick, now that you've said, you know what, bring the focus back to me. Let's talk about you.
Please.
So I wanted to ask you, being an educator, tell us a little about who you are in the education field, what you do for a regular job, and then how you have used board games to mix into education. So
I am a teacher, have been for 13 years. mostly math, but I've also done social studies. I'm currently teaching a STEAM class for middle school students that involves like some coding and stuff. So I've done a little bit of everything in education. And um, part of what I try to do, there's a lot in education that is a little bit antiquated in my opinion, as far as like content that we require people to learn. A lot of high school math is a little bit antiquated and most people don't need to know it. So what I try to instead focus on are things that involve problem solving skills. So like in my classes, I had a like unit on problem solving because to me, I mean, there are applications and things like the SATs, you got to do some problem solving with word problems and stuff like that. But just like general, you know, being able to look at an issue and find a solution, especially when there's not like a single right answer, I thought it's a very valuable skill for people to learn. And so that's kind of what my focus has been on. And so I've used games in a lot of different ways. Some of them I'm going to talk about later. So I'll hold off on the specific ones, but have really kind of gone out trying to find different ways for people to learn things. And I think that games are a way in which you're constantly, if you're doing it right, you're thinking through like a strategy and thinking through like, I could try this and this would be the result, or I could try this and this would be the result. And then understanding like when you try something and it doesn't work, going back and prototyping or, reflecting on it, trying again, something slightly different. I think all of that is stuff that is incredibly important for people to know how to do. And it's not something that most people ever have like direct instruction on. Like you don't very often sit in a class and learn how to be a problem solver. You don't sit, there's a lot of skills that teachers generally will take for granted. They're like, somebody has taught you along the way how to take notes, right? Somebody has taught you how to study for a test. Somebody has taught you how to be a problem solver. And a lot of the times that's not true. They've never actually learned those things. And so what I try to do in a lot of my classes is focus on like skills that can apply anywhere. Of course, we're still going to learn, like I'm teaching calculus right now. We're learning derivatives. Yes. Okay. But I'm also got my kids doing a data analysis project to where they're seeing, using rate of change, which derivatives measure, in order to figure out like they're going back and looking at old COVID data and seeing like when we're increases, when we're decreases and things like that. So, I mean, being able to actually apply what you know, even if you don't know the little details. Let's not forget that calculators and Google exist, which happens a lot. I think, I'm sure, back when we were in school, they were like, you might be in a situation without a calculator. There are still people that say that. And my response has always been, if that's the case, there's a bigger problem at hand, because like the apocalypse is upon us, because everybody has a calculator and there's one within probably 5 feet of anybody at any one point, maybe even several. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that like we're in a weird place where the things that we need to know and the things that we don't are all in flux. But the thing I think is always going to be important is how do we solve problems? And so that's the thing that I really focus on. And I think games do a really great job of helping you do that and practice that in a fun way.
That's cool.
Love it.
You spoke about it earlier. You said that. Sorry.
Stop it. Cover your mic.
You asked the question, Isaac. Sorry,
Here's a commercial for Sovereignty while we're waiting.
You
Sovereignty.
Pronouncing that thing
Sovereignty.
Making come through the
No, I did it right that time. Sovereignty. You distracted me. Sovereignty, mispronouncing their name since 1987.
Yep.
They've only been around for 2 years. Okay.
No, that Instagram page has been around for a long time.
Oh, that's true. So Rick, you've been bringing board game designers and publishers into the classroom, which is a really neat experience. Like I know as a kid, I was into board games, but like I never got to meet somebody who designed a board game,
Right.
Your students are getting to meet designers, whether it's over the internet or on a video chat or actually coming into the classroom prior to COVID. So what is that? like, how have you seen the kids grow in kind of their understanding of what board gaming is and how it can be helpful?
It's been really interesting for them to see, like when you think about things like Monopoly in our minds, almost there's not a creator. Monopoly is just a thing that's always been there. It's not something you generally think that somebody came up with this idea. Somebody designed artwork for this. It's just, that's Monopoly. It exists. That's Sorry. It exists. It's always like that, And so I think if you in those ideas, and so then those are the games they're familiar with, and they might see something that's on a shelf or something, but it's just something that exists. They didn't think about it being made by a person. And so I think it's really interesting for them to think through, like, whenever we do this, there's always a couple of about half the students make like a different version of a game that already exists. So I usually it's been 2-week classes. Usually the first few days we play a bunch of different types of games that they've probably never experienced. And sometimes they'll build something off of that, something they enjoyed. So like one year I had a group make essentially a copy of Spyfall. And they really, had fun with it, and they had some interesting tweaks to it, but nothing that was like out of bounds. And then every now and then that you'll get somebody that kind of just comes out of nowhere with a cool design that has nothing to do with anything, and you're like, that's really cool. Of course, there's also, the one group that wants to make a trivia game, and they insist on making 100 cards for it, and so they just sit there in every class and make a trivia card. Who am I to stop them? Their teacher, but I guess whatever. But it is really cool for them to get to talk with people about that are involved in board game design. And I think especially, so I teach at an all-girls school that has a pretty high minority population. We're at about 47-48% minority population. For people to see that there are game designers that are not just white guys, that it's really been really cool for them, because I work really hard to bring in some people that have different backgrounds and stuff. Yeah. And so it's been really cool for them to kind of have that. And then the last couple of years that I did it, we ended the week with them doing some like speed pitching. And so I set up like 4 different stations, and they would go and talk to the designers and do just like, we saw it at Southern Fried, where they've got, 10 minutes to explain their game and explain the rules and stuff like that. It's just like that, obviously, with, more not as much of a tested prototype and stuff, but it's been really cool. And they're able to experience something that, I never did any sort of pitch like that when I was in school. So having that kind of experience that you might have for like a business, or, if you do design something like that, I think it's something that, and also having to talk to an adult that you don't know and be professional and kind of explain those kind of things, I think has some really cool things and applications that I can't even really think of.
Yeah, you're definitely setting them up with some life skills that you're not going to get in an average classroom,
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's been pretty cool, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity, and we've had some great supporters. And I mean, and it goes beyond, like, there are some organizations, and we've even gotten some board games from people, and that's for like board game clubs and things like that. And I think those definitely have a place, and those are awesome. I mean, I've got a board game club at my school now that finally, it's been 7 years, but and we play some cool stuff, and they get to experience that. But I do think that idea of being on the design side is really, really something that I'm hoping to kind of expand on this year. I'm hoping to we've got a new format at our school where we do a 9-week session. So it's 15 classes. And you're supposed to kind of have a product at the end. And I'm really hoping that I can pull one off this year where they're going to have something that they can take to Proto ATL and present that, because I think that would be really cool.
Nice.
So that's something that I'm shooting for this year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just recently, we've gotten a message from a friend of ours that is going to be using board games as a recruitment tool for their chemistry association chemistry group on the campus of our local college. And so that's something that like Rick and I and Bob are going to have to sit down and talk about. How can we get a hold of a couple educational chemistry-based games and help them out and support the college? So
just play Subatomic over and over again.
It's just tons of copies of Subatomic.
Yep.
So let's talk about 5 games that have educational value. And so these can, we can either be just straight educate. This obviously is to educate somebody on this topic, or it can be used to teach in some way. So I don't know, since this is kind of a nebulous top 5, I don't know that the order matters. Do you guys care?
No, each one of these is
always
each one's different, doing something completely different.
All 5 of mine are doing something completely different. So we'll just go 5 to 1, no specific order. So, and because I
will give them an order, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because I have the flu. I didn't feel like pulling all these games out. So
how dare you?
I'm just gonna describe the box to you.
Will you hold up the same box for each one? And let the box be something that has nothing to do with the games that you're
sure.
talking about.
I got a copy of Juicy Fruits right here.
Perfect.
Or I was going to say, grab the Bloody End behind you for Halloween.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
I'm just going to hold up Juicy Fruits every single time.
But
somebody's going to watch this video and be like, "Oh."
I need you to reveal it each time like it's not Juicy Fruits.
Okay.
And like that it's going to be a surprise each time that you do it.
I'll do it.
I should have.
I'll play along.
This is for the people that are going to join later.
Yes,
which don't exist.
Like,
but
which don't exist.
I'll
when my grandma watches it.
Yeah.
All right,
you're up first, Rick.
Go, Rick. Number 5.
Okay. So one thing. So like I said, I've teach at a girls' school. I've done so. This is my 7th year there. And I was our math department chair for a while and did a lot of research about like math and how girls learn math and all that jazz. And because there's a stereotype of girls aren't good at math or whatever. There's only one area of math where girls tend to perform lower than boys. And there's not a lot of research on why. It's just that they know they do. And that is on spatial reasoning skills. Again, they don't really know why, but being able to do that.
And I can attest to that, being a parent of 2 girls and 1 boy. Josiah beats the crap out of the entire family with spatial reasoning games.
Yeah, and so one game that I got that I'm hoping, I haven't figured out the best way to do it, but is Ubongo, and figuring out a way to try introducing this in my classes. Basically, in this game, you've got a bunch of Tetris-like pieces. It's huge, guys. Like, I feel like I should just hide behind it at this point. My spatial reasoning is off right now. But basically, it gives you, you'll roll a die. Yeah, I'll just show you the back of the box. Roll a die, and it gives you a symbol, and it tells you the pieces that you have to use to fill in like the card that you have. So you all have the same card. You roll a die. It tells you what you all have the same pieces. It tells you which ones to use. So it's a speed game. I probably wouldn't use it as that in a teaching setting because there's a lot of reasons why you don't do things for speed in a teaching setting. But that kind of spatial reasoning stuff like patchwork also, finding a way to make it to where you're learning and growing in that skill instead of like feeling like crap if you don't do well.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
There's ways to do that with Ubongo.
That's cool. My first one is a word game. It is Bananagrams.
I already forgot that it was Juicy Fruit. I already forgot. It made me really
good.
Happy.
So Bananagrams is a word game that is way better than Scrabble. But what I love about Bananagrams is it makes you think quickly about words and how to associate the letters that have similar letters in other words and how they can fall in line with each other. And what I love about Bananagrams is the space that you use and how you can challenge yourself to be more compact with setting up your word associations and things like that. And also because Isaac loves bananas, I wanted to make sure Bananagrams was in
I
this
was a little
list.
confused why you got so intimate with that banana for a while. But
I have my bin of small games over here, and it's just within reach. Good game, horrible fruit. All right, number
Whatever.
5.
Can you also put that on the bag? Can you handwrite that as a review on the bag of every
Yes,
copy? Go with like a
yes.
Barnes and Noble. And just
He's just writing it on there. It's like,
Game
sir, we have
10
to
out of
ask you to
10.
leave.
Yeah, game 10 out
This
of
is
10.
the
Fruit,
third time.
0 out of 10.
Whatever.
I am going to go with a Genius game because that is the easiest company to pick games from.
Absolutely.
And I have a couple of their games, but I think this was the first one we got, which was Cytosis. It's simple, it's easy. I've played this with under 10-year-olds. They get it, they figure it out. Mighty mitochondria, right? You're rolling through the cell and you can figure this thing out. I have played not all of their games, but every game I've played from Genius Games I love. And so
Yeah.
easy intro to science concepts. So
It's awesome.
Are there more Genius games coming up for you, Isaac, or can I talk about other ones now?
that's it. It's my only one.
Brian, do you have Genius games coming up?
I have one.
Okay, then I'll wait.
No, you go ahead because you've actually got the game. Probably, I don't.
Well, no, I wasn't. It wasn't on my list. I was just gonna.
Oh, okay.
Just gonna riff, you know.
Okay.
Kind of in the Genius game category, and I actually thought this was a Genius game, but it's not. It's Artana. But Lovelace and Babbage is really good. I played this with Adrian. So one thing about educational games that I think like Cytosis and other Genius games do better is no timed mechanic. I do think that is something that can be dangerous. I don't want to take that away from people where that's like something they're proud of, like a kid that's really good at doing times tables in their head. Yeah, play a game that's timed and like that and let them enjoy it. But you have to have the right audience, and I wouldn't want anybody to think I'm going to teach my kid with this thing where I'm rushing them to think. That doesn't work very well. Teacher tip, don't do that. But anyway, I played this with Adrian. Now Adrian Adrian Perez is our buddy over at One More Family. Adrian has a degree in mathematics, and I beat Adrian in this game. Ha ha ha! But it basically has it's coding, but like you're doing math to get from one number to another, and you play like little chips that manipulate your total to get from one thing to another. It's really a cool thinking game, and you like draft the pieces that you need and stuff. It's an incredibly creative design. I don't know that I could ever play this with anybody besides Adrian, because I think it's not going to be most people's kind of thing, but it is really, really, really cool. And so if you are a math nerd, if your kid's a math nerd, if they love kind of like if they're a little human calculator, this is one to definitely check out. I don't know if you can get a copy of it anywhere, but like used things exist, so go find it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. You actually did a review for that on our site. Really good stuff. Yes. There's a game called Constellations that is over there on the bottom shelf.
No,
Constellations is a game. What now?
Hold up the juicy fruit bar.
Oh. My next one is Constellations.
Oh, that's a good game.
Constellations is all about building the night sky. And the mechanics are similar to something like Century Spice Road, where you're basically spending these resources to get constellations, and as you put them into the night sky, they have to line up in certain ways in order to get the most number of points. But then there's also this perfection. There's this advanced rule set where you actually have to put the constellations next to the constellations that are actually in the sky for real. And so there's an advanced type of game in the box that forces you into trying to fit things almost like a puzzle and work it out. It's really good. It's a really good design, and it's really underrated. It's a game that was actually kickstarted by a former rocket engineer, and so he's gone on, and I think they've done 3 different games now in the series. But Constellations is a really solid one. I've actually bought it for a couple people, and friends have ordered it online. And there's a night watchers, like watching the night sky guide to like finding constellations in the sky
really cool.
inside the book, which is
Nice.
really neat. So it's awesome.
I am going with a game that inspired me to learn more about this particular type of animal or animals, and that was Wingspan.
Wingspan,
Because honestly, like I had zero to no interest in birds.
Absolutely,
Started playing this
yeah.
game, and I was like, why am I so interested in these birds? Like,
Yeah.
why do I want to learn more? In the art and the style in this game, you sit down, you read the little text, and any game with extra little flavor text, I love to read it. And this
Yeah.
really kind of spiked my interest in, and I haven't, not like I've joined any type of birding group, but that Facebook group
That's
for
the next
Wingspan.
step.
Yeah, probably. The Facebook group for Wingspan is one of the coolest groups because it's like 50% board game nerds and 50% birder nerds, and
Yeah.
they share very different worlds but come together around this game that represents things they enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's high on my learned a lot of stuff game.
That's really cool. It's awesome.
Number 3.
So again, in talking about learning
That's
different
good. That's a good joke.
No, don't encourage him. Boot him
That's a
now.
good one.
Just boot
Hey,
him.
good job.
Yeah, that's just rude.
right.
Listen, rude. All right.
Really? Okay.
I like
Mhm.
to teach communication skills, and so Codenames is a really good one for that. I don't want to talk about its usefulness because you probably already know. Let's talk about the time Ryan and Rick did a Codenames tournament at a board game convention.
Let's do that.
Ryan,
It
would
did
you
not
like
go over
would you
well.
like to do storytelling time about that?
Yeah. So Rick and I jumped into we thought we would do pretty well because we're friends. We thought we would do good. We both understood the rules and how this works. We even win one game? I think we just lost 4 back to back.
No, there was literally a round in which
Yeah.
one of us picked the assassin in the first turn.
That's right.
So
That's
we
right.
lost.
Yep.
It was a best
Yeah.
of 3, and we lost on the first turn.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
takes
it was
skill.
so good. It was so good.
Yeah, we
So.
got destroyed, and it was a little
Yeah.
bit humbling.
Yeah. Because we went in with fat heads. So.
Yeah. I can't help that. It's genetics, but
Yeah, genetics are the worst.
So next up, number 3 for me would be subatomic. Subatomic. If somebody's got subatomic,
Do you have it? Hold it up.
I do actually.
Boom.
Subatomic.
Do I have
Subatomic
it?
is number 3 on my list.
I have
Subatomic is
it.
a really cool game from Genius Games. It's one that anytime we talk about educational games, it shows up just because of the way that you're accidentally teaching there. It's almost, I call it accidental learning. The game is fun in itself. It's this really cool like card game where things are happening, bonuses triggering and all this stuff, and then you're like, oh, I actually learned something. Oh no. So Subatomic, really solid. Genius Games, definitely one to check out.
I like the art. I like the cover art there.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about Subatomic and other
somebody's going
games,
to tune in for 3 minutes and not have any idea what's happening. Every time we talk.
That's more time than they listen to any of our podcasts. But one thing I like about Genius Games is that they're actually good. Like that's the thing that set them apart from other learning games.
Oh, absolutely.
They are good.
Yeah.
And so, that's one that is high quality.
I'm going to go with one of the more recent historical games. I thought about the timeline games. It's got nice, easy, simple history. But I really like this one because they included historical stuff that was so off the wall, had no idea. I actually looked a couple things up. History is not my thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that with my next picks. But trekking through history, the stuff they have in here is not your, hey, Columbus sailed this day and this president. It's like they have one in here about suffragitsu, which was
you
like
told me about that.
It's crazy, right? Like that's the one that stood out to me, and I like went down this rabbit trail online learning about how women's suffrage learned jujitsu to defend themselves and like stuff you're never ever in a million years going to see or hear anywhere else, right? So it's a nice walk through history. It's got, yes, the Wright brothers are in here, but also other stuff from around the world. So anytime we have an opportunity to pique some interest in historical value, right, and say, hey, this is a cool thing, go learn more about it. Their next game, I don't know if you guys have seen what, because this is Underdog. their next game is Her Story, right? The history, Her Story, which 50 women in history who made big marks. And I think
That's really cool.
that one's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that. So
that's awesome.
History. Hank's a big history. Hank is a high school history teacher. So
that's really cool.
Enjoys the history stuff.
As a teacher at a girls' school, I think I'm required by law to buy that. My next one is, we're going to take it back a little bit to, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and for her birthday this year, she finally was at an age where we bought her some games. And so who we're going to go to? Haba, of course. We've got 3 games. 2 of them are okay. 2 of them, they're not that fun. But this one, First Orchard, is the bomb. The bomb, pretty awesome. It's kind of like in the realm of Hi Ho Cheerio. It's not a lot going on. You roll a die, but and like if you roll the fruit, you put it in the basket. If you roll the bird moves up. So you got to get all the fruit off the trees before you the bird reaches the end of his little path. One thing I really like about it is that it's super simple rules. Obviously, you know what you're supposed to do. There's a wild die in here where like you roll it and you have to pick which thing that you want. So it's like you get a choice. It's not the game just playing itself. I mean, it's the smallest choice you could have. But also the thing that kind of blew me away is the idea that it's cooperative, but she's learning how to lose. And the idea that you don't win every game that you play.
Yeah.
And like the first few times we played it, she'd roll, and if she got the bird, she would just roll again and get a fruit that was still missing, and she'd go, "Oh, I got it!" And so, but like 4th or 5th playthrough, we would lose, and she's like, "Oh no, the bird!" But like we had a very positive attitude about losing,
cool.
and so yeah, I mean, maybe I'm cheating to say that I'm teaching. It's a game that teaches you how to play board games. I could also talk about colors and things like that.
Yeah.
For 2+, but like that idea of her learning how to lose, I think it's not as apparent in the other Haba games. They don't have like the goal is not as clear as to what you're supposed to accomplish. But yeah, it's a really cool idea, and really, I think I really like it.
That's really cool. Yeah, we some friends of ours actually got a copy of that game at a thrift store, and they bought it for their kids, and they love it.
I would have loved to have found it at a thrift store because it was quite expensive, new, but but you know,
as all Haba games are. My next game is Museum. Museum.
The art on this one is great.
Museum, Vincent Dutray did the illustrations for Museum, and it is a really, really cool game. Rick and I played Museum at Origins 2018, was it?
Sure.
2017. Anyway, I actually did not like the game at all. I walked away from that demo, and I was like, well, that's a no. And then I played it later in its final form, and I was like, I really like this. And being a fan of art history, the way that the game is illustrated and has little pieces of information and where it comes from in the world, and it immediately engages you to dig into what that piece of artwork is and where it came from and who did it. So I really like Museum. Not only is it one of the best set collection games out there, but it is a really cool educational tool to learn art history. So
I like it.
Yep.
I kind of battled with, I always have way too many on my list, but as I'm sitting here, I thought one of the things, especially with the kids when they were a little younger, as we moved out of the Haba stuff, out of the Hi Ho Cheerio and some of that, was some simpler dexterity games. And so games where you steady a hand, and there's one from Haba with the dragon's eggs, and I can't think what it's called, where you have to move a ring and keep the gems on. So there's some dexterity to that. But because I always throw it in whenever I can, I mean, who doesn't love a good dexterity game?
Yeah.
Hamster roll is a fun, crazy big thing. Great opportunity to throw on the table and kind of teach kind of what the mechanics and the movements look like. And frankly, it's a fun dexterity game. There's other, like we have
It's a little bit of physics. Like,
yeah,
if
what's
you
the
put this here, it's
what's the
you know,
cowboy one? Flick 'em up.
flick 'em
Right.
up.
So like Flick 'em up feels more like a board game, right? Is more
Right.
strategy based, where this is just kind of a, hey, let's try some dexterity and see what happens, have a good time with it. Still one of my favorite games to get out for people that go, what is this? And they go, oh my gosh, this is a ton of fun.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So, I mean, kind of in that same realm, like Junk Art, we've played at a family reunion, and with like a 4-year-old, he like pulled up to the table, and I was like, I don't know if this has gotten. He did fine. So I think
it's Jenga next step, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what's your last game to educate somebody with?
Well, it wouldn't be Rick on a show of some sort if he didn't mention Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
That's true. That's true.
So, the best game ever made.
I've never heard of it.
But make sure you get the version that has good editing, or you will be sad. So there's like 4 versions now, but I have played that in a teaching environment. I did 2 classes during my problem solving unit, and I had a class that had only 6 people in it. And so in the other classes we played as part of our problem solving, we did 2 Rooms and a Boom, where they were kind of working on deduction a little bit. That was a bit of a stretch. Good game, but just not really doing. And I also had to adjust it to not talk about like assassinating somebody in the school setting. Probably for the best. But Sherlock Holmes Consulting. Exactly. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective was really cool because I gave like 2 kids the map, 1 kid the book, 1 kid the directory, some of them the newspapers. Like we split up all the different things. And so it worked really well. And so they had to kind of think through the information that they were given. They had to come up with an idea, try it out, see if that worked. Like the problem solving process that I teach of, define, prepare, try, reflect, that kind of process. It was easy to kind of point out what they were doing along the way. And so that's one that I think you could really, in a, like I just said, in a school setting, I mean, somebody could really go out on a limb and make something that was like history based, and really dive into making something like this that would work really well with a curriculum. It would take hours to create, but it could be awesome. But these are cool. And these, kind of the idea of how you find the answers to things, how you, it's not perfect, but getting to a deduction. I think this works better than even like a Chronicles of Crime or a detective series. Even though those have the app, I think this is easier to do.
There's a hands-on. There's a hands-on with that. Yep, that's cool. My last one is going to be Search for Planet X. Even though Search for Planet X is literally right there, it's easier to just hold up this Juicy Fruits box.
Don't give up the gag.
So Search for Planet X is one of my favorite logic games that I know of. It's you're searching for one specific planet, Planet X. Everybody has these clues that are given on your phone, and everybody, as you search, there's criteria. I think like Planet X cannot be between 2 asteroids. So anytime you find 2 asteroids that are apart from each other, Planet X can't be in that pie-shaped piece in between the 2 asteroids. So it's all about rolling through and saying, okay, if this, then that, if this, then that. And you're trying to figure out and deduce where Planet X is. It plays really, really well. It is one of my favorites. And there's more advanced settings in the app. And then you can even play where there are 12 pie pieces versus 8 pie pieces to kind of make it even harder. So really awesome game. So I'm teaching logic and deduction. So
I like the cover art on that one too.
Yeah.
Super solid.
Similar to some of the other ones I've picked.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mentioned history. Anytime a game has a heavier game, has a historical element that seems interesting, I end up rabbit holing to learn more and more about it. And my what I've been playing lately is going to be that. But for my 5th pick, I had to pick one of my favorite heavy games. Need a 2-hander for this one, and that is Lisboa. Move that guy out of there, Lisboa.
There you go.
I'm not a history guy. Like, again, no idea. And to learn about like the destruction of Lisboa and how Lacerda kind of plays this out, the earthquake, the tsunami, the flood, right? And I'm like, and the fires. And I'm like, all that seriously happened to the city at the same time. And then you kind of go down that route, and it inspires interest and piques my interest, right? And I love the detail that a game says, hey, this historical thing, let me help teach you about this while you also experience the game.
That's cool.
And I think he did a tremendous job with Lisboa with that.
That's awesome. So that brings us into the last part of the show. What have we been playing? Rick, you wanna throw a game or two out there that you've been playing?
Yeah, how about 7 different? I don't play a lot of games anymore, guys. Let's all come back. No, I have been playing. Stop, guys! Y'all got to with the coughing and the sniffing and stuff. This is I'm not used
really
to this.
Sick.
This like level of unprofessionalism. It's starting to affect. I'm just kidding. I eat in the middle of our podcasts.
That's very true.
Wow.
Very true.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
How many times do I have to like lower the volume so the Doritos don't smack in the?
I don't eat Doritos. Never would do that.
Oh my goodness,
that
was
a
best
full-on slurp.
that was a juicy slurp right there.
I thought I was muted. I'm sorry.
No, that was loud.
It's cough syrup in here. So
oh, jeez.
Good. I'm going to have to get some airborne after hanging out with Ryan so long on this podcast. What I've been playing mostly with the board game club at my school that started this year. We played Take 5 last week. That was fun.
Nice.
We played Monstrosity, which was really good. They really enjoyed that. But the one that I enjoyed the most was Ghost Love Candy 2, Roll and Fright.
Ghost Love Candy 2, so good. Yep.
They played the Roll and Right. We played the simplest one. What's the Boogaloo? Is that the easy?
Boogaloo. You still didn't get the box right. What are you doing? Come on, get your stuff together.
So they really enjoyed that. That was something that I think
super cool.
Really something helping them to see games that exist that they never really expected. They're like, oh, Yahtzee is you roll and you write stuff down. I was like, it's not Yahtzee. And so they had fun with that. The strategy kicked in and they really enjoyed it. So yeah. Oh man, you broke
Frozen Banana. Oh man,
it's my favorite card. Banana. My favorite card.
So much
horrible fruit.
So, but whatever.
You're very banana heavy. I think we need to evaluate Isaac and his relationship with bananas for a full episode.
He's got PTSD.
I do
from banana. Bananas hurt him at some point.
No,
I was raised in a banana tree.
I think it's more of a Stockholm syndrome because he keeps talking about these banana related things and how much he loves them.
He's got a lot of them too.
Were you abducted by bananas?
It may have been. We should finish this podcast.
Is your wife a banana? Blink once or twice.
She is not.
Anyway, so back 2 players. We have. I started digging into this. Bob and I were able to get together last weekend, not this past weekend, but last weekend and play Sobek 2 players. It's really good. I like it. It's like chunky tiles, really cool artwork. I'm really excited about getting Aaron to play this one. I had forgotten that I had played Sobek, the card game, the original game on Board Game Arena during COVID. I had forgotten about that. And then Ready, Set, Bet. I picked up a copy of Ready, Set, Bet because of all the hype, and we have played it 3 times already.
So good.
I have not played it, but I have been the announcer every time.
The
and
app's
it is
out.
Hysterical. Yeah, I like announcing, but yeah.
I do too. I really like the announcing part.
I really do. Yeah.
It's fun. I like the announcing part.
Yeah.
I will. Have you looked at the app yet?
No, I haven't.
All right, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay.
But yes,
Let's
awesome.
Drag this episode out, guys. Yeah. I think this should be the first 2-hour episode. Let's keep it going. Let's roll it along.
I'll just give you one. Speaking of history,
Okay.
started looking up stuff on this week because I was like, why is there a funeral procession on the cover of this game? And Lacrimosa from De Vere
Heard that's
is
good.
so good. It's midweight Euro. It's Mozart is dead. He started his last composition, which is true, the Lacrimosa, the Requiem, and you're helping design and develop the last bits of that music with different composers, which is
That's
actually
really
what
cool.
happened in real life. And it's great. Like I thoroughly enjoy this one.
Nice.
De Vere does not disappoint. Right? I haven't played a bad game from these guys, and love the theme because it's different. It's not Euro. Name the every midweight Euro has the same type of theme. This one with the music is just really cool. So
there's not elves in it.
Are there elves?
I said there's not. That means it's different, right?
I need more elves in this game. So.
Yep, no elves, no bananas, my kind of game.
Oh man, that'll do it for this episode of the Game Chat. Rick, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, I have 17 more games to talk about. Where are we going?
You can find Rick. You can find myself. You can find both of us over at One Board Family. He does stuff over there. He had the day off on Friday, so he was supposed to write a review. So we'll see.
Where is it? I haven't seen it.
I don't know.
In here.
That's where he's storing all them reviews.
That's where all the good stuff is.
He will write something. Rick's usually good for a holiday wish list. It's funny because anytime the holidays come around, I write the holiday buyer's guide. Rick writes the what could you buy me for
and it
Christmas.
has never worked.
It's never worked. You've never gotten one of those games, but
nobody buys me what I want.
Year.
It's really kind of rude at this point.
Yeah,
it's fair.
So
I give and I give and I give and I give.
That's all you can do.
You're just
that's all you can do. We are at Gaming with Sidekicks on pick your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the TikToks where you can find some One Board Family TikTok material.
Yeah, you seeing my TikTok game? I'm trying to upgrade it.
Catch up.
Do it.
Come get with me.
Trying to.
Yeah, that's where all the kids are. So that's where we're at.
And don't forget to check out the Will It Game podcast whenever it actually comes out.
Who's the next guest?
You're supposed to be the next guest.
Oh, I thought you just had somebody. I thought you just recorded. I thought you just recorded.
Supposed to, and they dropped out.
We did not. So,
yeah, he's a bum.
Yeah, that guy is the worst.
That guy. So anyway, check us out online. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been the Game Chat, and hey, go play some cool games and have fun with people. See ya.
Bye.